My name's Evan. I'm 28, and I guess the best way to start this off is by saying I used to think family loyalty meant something. That if you showed up, gave your time, your money, your care, people would see it, that it'd matter. But this past Easter proved I was wrong. I'm the oldest by a long shot. My brother, Jeremy, is 22. My dad remarried when I was 16, not long after my mom passed. That part still stings to even type out. Her death kind of shattered everything, and while I did my best to hold the pieces together, Dad moved on with eerie speed. Within a year, he was dating this woman named Karen, yes, with a C, because of course, and by the time I graduated high school, she was already moving into the house we'd shared with Mom. It was never really a family after that. More like a blended arrangement that leaned heavily in Karen and Jeremy's favor. At first, I tried. I really did. I offered to help with Jeremy's homework. I brought home groceries, even got a part-time job to contribute while I was in college. Karen always acted polite, but it was that forced kind of nice. Like the way someone smiles at a cashier but doesn't make eye contact. And Dad? He just faded. Started missing my recitals, brushing off our movie nights, canceling father-son trips we used to take every spring. Said he was busy, but he wasn't. He just stopped trying. I moved out at 20 when I finally got tired of feeling like a third wheel in my own house. But even then, I didn't cut ties. I still showed up for birthdays, still mailed gifts, still called every Sunday like clockwork. It was like I kept hoping, maybe next time they'll see me. Maybe next time it'll be different. Spoiler, it wasn't. This year, Karen decided to throw a big family Easter gathering. She posted it in our group chat like it was this grand surprise, backyard egg hunt, catered food, family traditions. I rolled my eyes, but I agreed to come. Mostly because Jeremy had asked me directly, and I figured, all right, why not? I had the day off, and maybe this was a chance to reconnect. But somehow, even when I know better, I still walk into their house hoping things will feel like home again. The day started off, okay. Karen assigned tasks like she was managing a restaurant. Evan, you take the backyard, set up the egg hunt stations, make sure the tables are clean. The kids need juice boxes in the cooler, and don't forget the plastic cutlery. No please. No thank you. Just orders. I didn't argue. I smiled, nodded, and got to work. I always do. It's like muscle memory now. I cleaned the backyard, arranged the plastic eggs, laid out the tablecloths, even fixed a few chairs that were wobbling. I went on a last-minute store run when the catering service called and said they forgot the vegetarian dish. I paid out of pocket for it, $74.63. Never got reimbursed, by the way. Around 3 p.m., people started arriving. Cousins, in-laws, Karen's side of the family mostly. I was the only one sweating in a button-up shirt with grass stains on my knees. Everyone else had somehow shown up fresh, clean, and clueless. Karen's sister greeted me like I was the hired help. Oh, you must be the one setting everything up. You're doing such a good job. She said it with that faux cheery tone that made me want to laugh and scream at the same time. My own uncle didn't even recognize me at first. Jeremy gave me a side hug and muttered, "Glad you came, man," before disappearing with his girlfriend. As the afternoon went on, I realized something: no one had saved me a seat at any of the tables. I kept telling myself it was an oversight, that maybe someone would notice and fix it. But the more people trickled in, the more chairs were taken, until I was left standing with a plastic cup of lukewarm lemonade in my hand and a forced smile on my face. Karen finally announced dinner was ready. People started lining up near the buffet, paper plates in hand, laughing and joking. I lingered near the folding table where I'd set out the forks. That's when it happened. I was reaching over to straighten a napkin holder when I heard my dad's voice, sharp, sudden, and just loud enough for the people around us to stop talking. "Evan," he said, not looking at me, "you're just a guest in this family now. Don't overstep." It was like someone had sucker punched me. At first, I didn't even process it. I just blinked, confused, thinking maybe I misheard him. But then Karen, standing beside him with her arms crossed, nodded. "It's not your place to run things here," she added with this smug little smile like she'd been waiting years to say that out loud. I looked over at Jeremy, my brother. My baby brother who used to follow me around like a shadow when we were kids. He met my eyes and looked away. Not a word. Not a single word. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there with that same stupid plastic cup in my hand, realizing I was the only one in that yard who felt out of place in a family I used to belong to. I walked inside. Didn't say a word. Found my bag by the front door where I dropped it earlier that morning. And then I started unplugging things. The Wi-Fi router? Gone. I bought it last year when theirs broke and no one bothered to replace it. The backyard speakers? Mine. I'd lent them for Jeremy's graduation and never got them back. Gone. That extra generator keeping the catering warm? Surprise, that was mine too. Bought it during a snowstorm last winter and left it with Dad, just in case. I unplugged it and carried it to my car like it weighed nothing. It felt like something in me had just clicked off. Like the years of bending over backwards, staying quiet, swallowing hurt, just evaporated. And I wasn't done yet. I walked out to my car slow and steady, like I wasn't fuming inside. Like I hadn't just been told, out loud, in front of a yard full of people, that I didn't belong to my own family anymore. But I wasn't going to cry. Not for them. Not anymore. As I opened my trunk and started loading the gear, I noticed someone watching me from the kitchen window, Jeremy. He didn't come out. He didn't say anything. Just stared. I almost laughed. Maybe he was shocked I didn't just slink off quietly like always. Not this time. After loading up, I got in the car and sat with the engine running. I stared down at my phone and opened a little folder I kept on my notes app. It was labeled Shared Expenses, and it held a lot of things my family had conveniently forgotten I'd covered over the years. Like the car insurance policy that was still in my name. Dad had totaled his car a few years back, and I stepped in to co-sign the new one and get him a good rate through my provider. He never transferred it. I paid the monthly premiums. Quietly. Out of guilt, I guess. Or habit. Or the utilities. The house was still under Mom's name when she passed, and I'd never officially removed myself as the secondary account holder. When they had a financial rough patch last year, Karen had taken a break from work to focus on her wellness. Whatever that meant, I agreed to cover the electric bill for a few months. Those months turned into a year. I had all the account logins. Still had access. Still had control. And then, there was the big one. I wasn't just footing the bill for the Wi-Fi or their Amazon Prime. I was also the guarantor on their new HVAC system. They'd had a problem with their old unit during the worst summer heat wave in decades, and when the contractor required a co-signer, guess who got the call? Me. I didn't even hesitate. Just showed up and signed. Paid the first installment out of pocket to get things rolling. Guess what else I had? The contract. So I opened the billing portal, unlinked my card, clicked Transfer Ownership. When it wouldn't let me because they hadn't made enough consistent payments, I clicked Cancel Autopay instead. Then I logged into the electric company, paused the payment, texted customer service with a simple line. I'm no longer residing at this address and would like to be removed as a payee. They replied within minutes, saying they'd reach out to confirm with the primary holder. I smiled. Then I found the insurance app, pulled up the car policy, removed my payment method, sent a cancellation notice with an end-of-month date, and finally, I screenshotted every single cancellation, removal, and email confirmation and emailed it to my dad. Subject line, since I'm just a guest, here's what I'll stop providing. I hit send. Then I drove off. I was about 5 minutes away when the call started. First it was Jeremy, then Karen, then Dad. None of them left voicemails. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to my apartment, parked, and made myself a sandwich. The kind I always used to eat as a kid, peanut butter and jelly with the crust cut off. I needed something familiar, something grounding. It was about an hour later when Jeremy finally texted. Dude, what's going on? I stared at it for a while before replying. I texted, just a guest, remember? No response. The next morning, I woke up to find 4 missed calls from Karen, 2 emails from Dad, one angry, one concerned, and a voicemail from my aunt saying she'd heard things got tense and maybe I was overreacting. Overreacting. I helped throw an entire family gathering, paid out of pocket, and was told publicly I didn't belong. But sure, I was the problem. They underestimated me. Again, that afternoon, the power went out at their house. I know this because Jeremy texted, "Power's off. Did you do something?" I waited 5 minutes, then replied, "You'd have to ask the family. I'm just the guest." 2 hours later, my dad left me a voicemail. His voice was tight, controlled, but there was a little crack in it, like he couldn't quite believe this was happening. "Evan," he said, "we need to talk. I think things got out of hand." Karen shouldn't have said that. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "You know I appreciate everything you've done. Let's talk. Please." I didn't respond. I needed him to feel it. Really feel it. Because this wasn't just about Easter. It wasn't about a folding chair or some plastic eggs. It was about every ignored effort, every brushed off holiday, every time I called and no one picked up. It was about being made to feel like a burden in the same house where I used to hear bedtime stories and make pancakes on Sundays. It was about the little boy who watched his dad move on too fast, who kept hoping, year after year, that maybe, just maybe, he'd be seen again. And now? Now he finally was. And I wasn't done yet. I waited a full 24 hours before even thinking about calling him back. Not because I was playing games, but because I needed the time. To think. To breathe. To not react emotionally like I always had in the past. I wanted to go into this clear-headed, not with hope that he'd suddenly apologize or explain it all away, but to hear, really hear, what he had to say when the control slipped out of his hands. So the next evening, around 6 p.m., I called. He answered on the first ring. Evan, he breathed out, like my name was a lifeline. Thank you. Thank you for calling. Look, I don't know what Karen said, or what you think I said. No, I cut in, my voice calm firm. Don't start there. You know exactly what you said. Don't pretend it didn't happen. There was silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, but he didn't interrupt. Because I want to be really clear about something, I continued. You said I was a guest. Out loud. In front of your wife, your son, and every person in that yard. You said I didn't belong. After I spent my whole Sunday and half my paycheck making sure your family gathering went smoothly. Evan, it wasn't about. It was exactly about that, I said. You made a choice. And I made mine. He sighed, and suddenly his voice took on that familiar, frustrated edge. The one I'd heard in arguments when I was a teenager, the one he used when he wanted to sound like the adult in the room. I think you're overreacting. You took it too far, cutting the power? Taking the speakers? You're punishing the whole family over a single sentence. I almost laughed. A single sentence? That sentence wasn't a slip-up. It was how you've treated me for years. It just slipped out this time. He was quiet again. Look, he finally said, softer. I get it. Things haven't been perfect. But you've always been the strong one. You always handled things better than Jeremy. That's why I leaned on you. That's why I thought you could take it. There it was. The confession. The unspoken truth behind a decade of imbalanced affection. You thought I could take it, so you gave it to me? I asked. You let her treat me like a servant. You let Jeremy skate by while I picked up the slack. You never once asked how I was doing. And when I finally stopped doing everything, suddenly I'm being dramatic. That's not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying. I could feel something inside me, steady, solid, clicking into place. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just finality. The kind that doesn't scream. It just leaves. Here's the thing, I said. I'm not mad. I'm done. Evan. No. I'm done trying to prove I belong to people who only notice me when I'm useful. You want the power back on? Pay your own bill. You want the car insurance covered? Transfer the policy. The HVAC? That debt's yours now. I'm not carrying this anymore. I let the silence settle in again. You made me the guest, Dad. So I'm checking out. I hung up before he could respond. I didn't block him. I didn't send a dramatic follow-up email. I just disappeared from the role they'd cast me in. The days that followed were quiet. Tense, but quiet. No more calls. No more texts. I heard from my cousin, the one who still talked to me, that there'd been a whole meltdown after Easter. Karen blamed Jeremy for not managing the situation. Jeremy blamed Karen for escalating things. My dad apparently tried to smooth things over, but when the air conditioning cut off in the middle of the week during an unexpected heat wave, yeah, that broke whatever cool he had left. They had to pay for an emergency technician visit. In cash. Turns out, when you take the one responsible person out of the equation, things fall apart. I focused on my own life. Took a few days off work. Slept in. Ate well. Cleaned my apartment. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel the weight of being the good son. The fixer. The one holding the family together with duct tape and denial. Then, a week later, Jeremy showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock and checked the peephole before opening. He looked sheepish. Sweaty. Like he'd been pacing in the hall for too long. Hey, he said. I raised an eyebrow. You could have texted. I figured you wouldn't answer. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I didn't know, he said after a second. About everything. The payments. The catering. The insurance. I didn't realize how much you were doing. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You didn't care to know. He nodded. Yeah, I didn't. I just got used to it. You always handling everything. I guess I thought you liked it. Did I look like I liked it? He smiled faintly, then looked down. No, not really. There was a long pause. I could tell he wasn't here to argue. That was new. I talked to Dad, he said. He's Dad. He's blaming Karen, but also trying to guilt you for abandoning him. I told him he was lucky you stuck around as long as you did. That almost made me smile. Then he added, I want to fix things with you. Not for them. Just us. I studied his face. For once, there was no entitlement there. No cocky younger brother grin. Just honesty. You want to fix it? I asked. Then start by not needing me to do all the work. He nodded again. Fair. I opened the door wider and stepped aside. You want water? He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath the entire time. Yeah, that'd be great. As we sat down in my kitchen, something shifted. Not fully healed. Not forgiven. But cracked open, just enough for the air to move again. My dad would keep calling, I was sure. Karen might even send a guilt-ridden email about rebuilding trust. But I wasn't playing along anymore. This time, the guest had left for good. Jeremy and I talked for nearly 2 hours that night. Not just about the Easter disaster, but everything. The years of imbalance. The quiet resentments. The way I always felt like the backup plan. The filler son. The one who made things work while Dad and Karen fawned over Jeremy like he was some rare collectible. To his credit, Jeremy didn't deflect. He didn't make excuses. He listened. I think I was just lazy, he said at one point. It was easier to let you carry it all. And I guess I figured, if no one was asking you to stop, then it must have been fine. That's the problem, I said quietly. No one ever asked if it was okay. They just assumed it. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, man. And weirdly, I believed him. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was talking to my brother, not Dad and Karen's golden child, not the kid who used to borrow money and never pay it back, but the guy who used to sneak candy into my room during finals week, or beg me to stay up late to play Mario Kart when we were kids. The version of him that existed before all the favoritism twisted everything. I didn't say, it's okay, because it wasn't. But I said, thanks. And that was enough for now. The next few weeks were uneventful in the best possible way. I went to work, came home, watched movies I hadn't seen in years, cooked dinner for myself instead of grabbing takeout while sprinting between responsibilities. My apartment became a haven instead of a layover between disasters. It was the calmest I'd felt since college. Dad kept trying. At first, it was subtle. A forwarded meme. A shared calendar invite to family brunch that I promptly declined. Then came the apology texts, each more desperate than the last. We were all stressed that day. You know, I didn't mean it like that. You've always been part of this family, Evan. Please don't do this. You're tearing us apart. That one actually made me laugh. Me. I'm not tearing anyone apart. I'm just done being the glue. He didn't reply. Then came the final straw. 3 weeks after Easter, Dad sent me a long email. Not to apologize. Not to take responsibility. But to guilt me. Karen is heartbroken. Jeremy's been upset. You've made your point, but maybe it's time to stop punishing everyone. Punishing. That word lit something inside me. Because let me be clear, I hadn't done this to be vindictive. I didn't flip the switch to hurt anyone. I did it because it was the only way to be heard. To stop the cycle. To remind them that I wasn't some silent, dependable footnote in their lives. But apparently, standing up for myself was punishment. So I wrote back. You want to talk about punishment? Let's talk. For 10 years, I've helped with your bills. Your car. Your home. I paid for groceries when you were short. Paid Jeremy's college application fees. Lent Karen money for that wellness retreat she never paid me back for. I was your backup wallet, backup organizer, backup emotional support system. I planned birthdays. I picked up decorations. I called every Sunday for years. You forgot my birthday twice. At Christmas last year, you gave me a $20 gift card while Jeremy got a new laptop. You said I already had a good setup. And on Easter, after I planned and paid and set up and cleaned, you stood in front of the family and said I was just a guest. You don't get to call my boundaries punishment. You don't get to hurt me for years and then act shocked when I finally stop letting you. You made your choices. I'm making mine. I ended it with a simple line. I wish you well, but I'm done. And I was. I didn't check for a reply. I archived the thread, blocked his number for my own peace, and stepped away completely. Now here's where it gets interesting. 2 months later, I got a call from Jeremy. Dad moved out, he said, voice low. Karen kicked him out last week. What? She found out he was behind on the HVAC payments. He kept telling her they were taken care of, but after you canceled everything, he just ignored it. Thought you'd cave eventually. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. So they started getting final notices. Then the repair guy came back and said there was a lien being placed if they didn't pay. Karen lost it. She blamed him for everything. Said you never should have been responsible for any of it. I raised an eyebrow. Now she says that? Jeremy sighed. Look, I'm not defending her. She's still Karen. But I guess without you as the buffer, they imploded. It was never going to last. He went quiet for a second. He's been staying at Uncle Rob's. Said he's thinking of selling the house. Wow, I muttered. All of that from one sentence in the backyard. Jeremy laughed dryly. Yeah, guess you weren't, just a guest, after all. We stayed in touch after that. Slowly, casually. He came by a few more times. We grabbed lunch. He actually started asking me about my life for once. And on my birthday, for the first time in years, he showed up with a homemade cake. Just like Mom used to make. Chocolate with raspberry filling. I didn't even know he could bake. Figured I owed you one, he said. For all the ones you covered. I won't pretend everything healed overnight. It didn't. Some wounds don't close neatly. They just stop bleeding. But I had peace. And that was something. As for my dad, he never responded to my final email. But 3 months later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Evan, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I read your email 100 times. You were right. About all of it. I got used to you fixing everything. And when you stopped, I didn't know how to function without you. That was my failure. Not yours. I'm sorry. I don't know if we'll ever talk again, but I hope one day you can remember the good parts of us. Because I do. I stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it up, placed it in a drawer, and walked away. Not angry. Not vindicated. Just free. Because the truth is, sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud. It's not a dramatic confrontation or a public takedown. Sometimes, it's silence. It's leaving. It's saying, you don't get to hurt me anymore. And meaning it.